I recently came across the FD Signifier channel, and to be honest, I was impressed. I was so impressed that I was a little depressed. I realized that my attempt at YouTube material creation is less than amateurish in comparison. His study of coons using the Spike Lee film Bamboozled was a thing of beauty. I can only hope to hone my skills to present something that engaging one day. My current YouTube analytics exhibit I have a long way to go, but in his video he made reference to a Brando Starkey quote, and I will put an excerpt of that quote here, and this will be the basis of my thesis going forward. And that quote says, epithets such as coon instill interracial discipline. They teach individual black folk that certain behaviors that damage the group's interests will not be tolerated and will incur penalties. So I'll start off by saying I'm Gen X. What that means is I still have the ability to recognize another's merit while still retaining the ability to respectfully disagree. In fact, I believe possessors of healthy minds should never agree with another person 100% of the time. People often don't even agree with their younger selves. Therefore, I must comment on the seeming disingenuousness of Mr. Signifier's Mount Rushmore of coonery. Or is it coonage? Who knows? He listed the usual suspects of Thomas Sowell, Candace Owens, and Clarence Thomas. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if I heard my trash being rummaged one night, only to investigate and find this. Jenny. Clarence Thomas seems to hold a disdain toward black Americans and a love for whiteness that is so strong it has to be an epigenetic holdover from the Atlantic slave trade. I gladly concede Thomas to the Davy Crockett Hat Brigade, but I must ask why so many African American social commentators who eagerly call out those of our community that are articulate and who hold doctorates when they utter a statement contrary to their common black advocacy are so loath as to call out the likes of Sexy Red and Sukihana amongst many, many others. In FD Signifier's video, he used an example of the Uberwaschbär, Stepin Fetchit, who was billed as the laziest man alive. Now, we can all identify him as an offensive caricature of black men, but let's compare and contrast him to the trash pandas FD Signifier identified. I do not infer the lethargy demonstrated by Mr. Fetchit from, say, Thomas Sowell, a man with a BA from Harvard, a master's from Columbia, and a PhD from the University of Chicago. These accomplishments aren't indicators that I would think would damage our interests. Completely ironic, bordering hypocritical labeling persons that don't agree with our narrative as an Uncle Tom and allow artists like this to influence your youth. It's akin to the far-right labeling everyone they disagree with is unpatriotic. Let me get this straight. Sowell calls for accountability and is bad, but how many young black men and women, boys and girls, have died trying to emulate the glorified ghetto lifestyle? If black lives really matter, then clearly behaviors that lead to the deaths of your youth would fall under the category of certain behaviors that damage the group's interests. And there is no consistency in the outrage against those who critique the black experience. For example, the statement, black culture keeps blacks down, made by Thomas Sowell is rage bait. But Aaron Magruder gets a pass for the seething commentary on black culture that was the Boondocks. The entire show was commentary and held no punches at eviscerating less than desirable aspects of African American life and sadly earned stereotypes. If you're still watching, I'm coming to the home stretch now. Yes, there are well-dressed, articulate black people that meet the definition of sellout. But we can't give a pass to those who have captured the public eye just because we can dance to them.
So I'm going to get some cheeks after this horsepower joint.
It seems that some African American commentators have sadly bought their own hype. They look to some of the victories we've seemingly won while punching above our weight class and possibly, understandably, overestimate our standing in the U.S. We are only around 14% of the population. There are large swaths of this country's inhabitants that only know of us through our representation on film.
Let's move forward amicably.
Okay, well, check this out. First of all, you're throwing too many big words at me. Okay, now, because I don't understand them, I'm going to take them as disrespect.
Television and the news. I am quite aware that the consensus amongst us is that we should not care what everyone else thinks of us. We're steadfast in that regard, all the while trying to convince people that we matter and that they should treat us better. We all sing this song in the key of white privilege. We're quick to point out that life is harder for us. Whites control the jobs and opportunities. Who would you rather interview? To conclude, there are some polished black people that personify the moniker of Procyon Lotor, but we should not turn a blind eye to the more urban-garbed variety. I still hold out hope that Sexy Red and Sukihana are sociology doctoral candidates that are merely conducting research for their dissertations. Hopefully it's an act, but if it is an act, then that's even worse. It's even more Stepin Fetchit-esque. And it's a damned embarrassing tragedy that the likes of Michael Knowles can identify it faster than many of us.
Or miscommunication. It's obviously a bit. The specific kind of bit this is a minstrel act.
And I'm not saying there is no room for raunchy music. Today's artists aren't the first and won't be the last to push the envelope. It's honestly not about the music. It's the portrait presented. We are painting the picture that this is our culture, that this is what blackness is. It can't be more evident than when you compare the reception Sexy Red received at the BET Soul Train Awards and what happened to Whitney Houston in 1989. Yep, Whitney was booed by some for not being black enough.